Congratulations to Sucker Punch, Ghost of Tsushima.
So Ghost of Tsushima won the Player's Voice Award back in 2020 at the Game Awards. So today, I'll be sharing with you all my personal experience with Ghost of Tsushima, and hopefully that will give a solid indicator about whether or not the game is for you, or if you should avoid Ghost of Tsushima entirely. So without further ado, let's check it out. So as far as performance go on the Steam Deck, 30 FPS is possible throughout the game. Now, the cutscenes may be harder to run at first, but still, it's pretty decent. It also appears that 40 FPS is also possible and 100% stable by using low quality settings with FSR3 and a dynamic scale set at 60. So overall, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut runs pretty decent on the Steam Deck. As far as gameplay is concerned, Ghost of Tsushima is extremely rich in it with much love about it. As far as combat is concerned, you get to engage in melee combat with the sword, parry, active bow and arrow, utilize quick fire, and many more. One of my favorite combat styles is called standoff, which by the way shines with an exclusive cutscene, sometimes with interesting dialogues from Jin or the enemy.
Who will face me first?
As you just saw, a standoff confrontation option occurs when being up close to enemies, but at the same time, them not spotting you. Successful execution results in one-strike kills. Aw, man, it feels extremely satisfying. As you progress in the game, you will also learn various combat stances. The various combat stances help you take down specific types of enemies with better ease, which I love as well. It brings so much more spice to the action aspect of the game and makes some extremely tough enemies a bit more bearable. Now, as far as exploration goes, Ghost of Tsushima also shines in this aspect as well. You can either trek on foot or ride your horse to traverse faster and find not yet discovered spots. There is much to discover which will help you be more equipped for your journey, whether it is finding hot springs, which by the way I also enjoy selecting a spot for Jin to meditate out loud as he bathes in it. This is something in which I have to thank Sucker Punch Studios for giving this kind of interesting addition to the game. As well as you get to engage in bamboo strikes, discovering pillars of honor, fox dens, and so forth, all benefiting in making Jin stronger and ready for what lies ahead. There are tons of satisfying and fun things to do, such as clearing Mongol camps, participating in duel fights, engaging in side quests labeled as Tales of Tsushima and Mystic Tales, which are totally worth it in my opinion, as playing them helps you know more about the characters in depth, as well as learn about life and culture during the Mongol invasion in the year 1274 on Tsushima Island. As for the Iki Island DLC, there are some unique things that are not included in the base game. One thing I love that the DLC included, which is not in the base game, is the archery challenges, where you must shoot at targets and lanterns in a timely manner. This brings about vibes from other action games that I enjoy, like Horizon Zero Dawn and Marvel's Spider-Man 2018. Now, as far as multiplayer goes, if you are somebody who primarily uses the Steam Deck, it doesn't work on the Steam Deck as far as it is concerned. With the PSN integration and the Windows requirement, it cannot run on the Steam Deck, hence obviously the Ghost of Tsushima port will be shown as unsupported on the Steam Deck. But aside from that, if you are somebody who has a kind of high-end PC and don't mind doing the PSN integration, I'm just still gonna be giving you a run-through of what multiplayer, aka Ghost of Tsushima Legends, is like. Now, as far as multiplayer mode goes, you get to invite your friends to play or do some online matchmaking to fight alongside each other with 4 classes to choose from: Samurai, Hunter, Ronin, and Assassin. This is a very fun experience, especially with friends, as you get to emerge in the action-packed adventures together in Tsushima Island. Ghost of Tsushima's story is extremely touching and resonates with me a lot as well. In this game, you play as Jin Sakai, who was a samurai on the mission to protect the Japanese inhabitants on Tsushima Island from the Mongol invasion. In the beginning, we get to see Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura, who was appointed the leader by the shogun, captured by Kotu Khan, the leader leader of the Mongols after leading the local samurai forces against the Mongols on Komoda Beach. So Jin, who was trained as a samurai and who loves his uncle due to his uncle being the only family member alive, vows to rescue his uncle. As he goes about befriending those around him, starting from Yuna, who saved him from finding him heavily wounded on Komoda Beach, and later on Sensei Ishikawa, a renowned archer and teacher, Taka, Yuna's brother and great blacksmith, and later on Norio, a warrior monk, to name a few supporting characters in which I'll touch base later on. Jin's mission became much greater than saving his uncle, Lord Shimura, but he started to have the goal and mindset of doing all it takes along with his companions to basically free Tsushima Island from the Mongols, even to the point of disobeying the samurai code of honor and risking punishment from the shogun, as long as it means safety, peace, and less lives lost. Iki Island's DLC story is impactful too. The events in this DLC take place after the events of the base game, so I highly recommend you wait till finishing the main campaign before engaging in the DLC. In this DLC, we see Jin discovering villagers being driven crazy due to a poison claimed as the sacred medicine. This poison was administered by Mongols Jin haven't met before. After defeating them, Jin learns that the leader is in a conquest of Iki Island. The island Jin's father led a military campaign against Iki Island's raiders and resulted as a failure. Jin at the time was just a boy then, witnessed his father being killed, and still feels extremely guilty about it. So with this new conquest threat from Iki Island, it basically gives Jin the incentive to go out and fight and protect Tsushima Island and face his past once and for all. Ghost of Tsushima is very rich in the story aspect of it, where there are many moments in the game in which they impacted and really resonated with me. So I'm going to be talking about some of the most impactful moments that I find in the game. Right when freeing one of Tsushima's villagers from the Mongols, the villagers asked Jin where they should run. Jin remarked by telling them not to run, but rather stand the ground and fight. In the past, I was someone who was prone to run away and avoid problems to the fullest extent, no matter how big or small. However, as I start to face my fear head on, standing firmly to my identity, I find much more peace, assurance, sense of self-worth, and emotional healing. Though at times it may be tough, facing my fears makes me buff. Now, the second impactful moment I see is about Sensei Ishikawa. Sensei Ishikawa is a pro samurai archer who taught Jin how to use the way of the bow, as well as helped him in the Battle of Castle Canada and later Castle Shimura. In the end, we see that Sensei Ishikawa regretted that he invested too much time and effort in life as a samurai and fame as an amazing archer, that he never invested time into his personal life of raising a family. I have to say this, growing a YouTube channel is like growing any business. It takes a lot of time and hard work. When not careful, it can lead to an unbalanced life. Sensei Ishikawa's life gave me the warning that I must balance my hard work with other essentials in life. Now, there's also something that I want to say concerning Taka, Yuna's brother. Taka taught me about the importance of acknowledging my strengths and limitations. Taka is not skilled in fighting. His expertise is as a blacksmith, so crafting the right and useful gear for Jin to do his part to fight is his role of being Jin's companion, in my opinion. He should have let Jin to do his job of going to Fort Koyasan and taking care of the Mongols, as well as Ryuzo, the trader. Taka went to the fort in hopes of helping Jin, which is really nice of him, only to be impaled on a pole facing Jin. But given the sword of Kotu Khan, the leader of the Mongols, to kill Jin, he should have listened to Jin's advice to run away, as he clearly was not a skilled fighter. Friendships come in various shapes and forms. Each of us have different strengths and weaknesses. In the past, I always felt obligated to help others, but now I learn to do what I can based on my strength. If I invest and pour my life into someone I care about deeply, it must be in an area in which I'm already great at in order to be much of a help. Otherwise, things may not go well. Now, I also want to touch base on Norio. Norio, the warrior monk who is a kind and compassionate leader, taught me the importance of meditation. As he was about to aid Jin in reclaiming Castle Shimura, he said these wise words.
Every spirit needs a moment of quiet before battle.
Every spirit needs a moment of quiet before battle is such a wise quote. Whenever I quiet down for a short while before embarking on a project, I always find myself being much more confident and productive in completing the tasks effectively. Now, I also want to touch base on Ryuzo. Ryuzo, the leader of the Straw Hats and Jin's childhood friend who ended up betraying him due to siding with the Mongols after the Mongols fed his men well, taught me the importance of being firm in doing what is right. Ryuzo and Jin were able to successfully free the Straw Hats from their enslavement with the Mongols, so it would have been better for Ryuzo to persevere a bit more by joining forces with Jin and his crew to fight against the Mongols and experience true freedom by liberating Tsushima Island from the Mongols. From Ryuzo, I learned that blessings come to those who are patient. One of the common questions that a lot of people ask me, whether it's friends or family, is how do I get so many games and how am I able to afford so many games? And the quick answer to that is that for the most part, I wait for games to be on sale. Whether it is getting a game in massive discount on Steam, or for back in the day when I still cared about collecting physical media, I will always go to those various garage sales, look for special GameStop deals, all these different ways of basically getting games for cheap. Yes, there are a few times in my life where I bought a game full price, but for the most part, if it's a game that I know that it will for sure go on sale later on, I tend to wait. And I always feel so happy with the decision as I end up saving money and I'm able to buy and experience more games. But last but not least, I also want to touch base about some moments in Iki Island. In Iki Island, we see Jin discovering Tenzo, his father's killer, and attempting to kill him for vengeance. But because Jin acknowledged that Tenzo killed his father because his father was the opponent to Tenzo, he decided to let Tenzo go. Tenzo was just doing his job to protect Iki Island and Jin forgave him. From this scene, I learned that life is just too short to be bitter towards others. Though there are those who have done horrible things, the best way is to find healing and just move on. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is very transformative. The characters are all so amazing and they all help and motivate me to become a better person. And hopefully when you play the game, it will impact you too. Ghost of Tsushima takes place in 1274, which matches the historical account of Mongols invading Tsushima Island in 1274. The opening scene of the samurai at Komoda Beach giving up their lives to try defending the island is true, as today, if you go to Komoda Beach, you'll see a monument in remembrance of the event. Like in the game, where the Mongols quickly dominated control over Tsushima Island, the Mongols dominated control over Tsushima Island within days in the real-life 1274 invasion. As for the characters in the game, all of them are fictional. However, the setting of the characters, like their trade and how they present themselves, resemble the look and feel of those residing in Tsushima Island during that time. The setting of the landscape and vibe of Ghost of Tsushima also matches with life at the time on the island. From the appearance of the settlement, landscapes, the feel of being attacked by bandits, rodents, and invaders while trekking into the unknown mysterious forest, the Inari shrines, the hot springs, and so forth, all depict life on Tsushima Island in 1200s. As for weapons in the game, like gunpowder and munitions, they are somewhat accurate as they were used in the Mongol invasions, but instead of the 1274 invasions, they were used in the second Mongol invasion in 1281. As far as Ghost of Tsushima's portrayal of samurai combat, it is not fully accurate as samurais at the time mainly used bow and arrow over sword. The diversity of combat in Ghost of Tsushima is most likely incorporated to make the game a bit more appealing. Now, Ghost of Tsushima has some amazing soundtracks that brings about the vibe of the game. So here, I'll give you a glimpse of one of my favorite songs in Ghost of Tsushima, which is Sacrifice of Tradition. The music soundtracks of Ghost of Tsushima are composed by Shigeru Bayashi, correct me if I say the name wrong, and Ilan Ishikari. The songs use Japanese instruments like the shakuyachi, which is a Japanese flute, the biwa, a Japanese short-necked fretted lute, and a koto, aka a Japanese stringed musical instrument, to name a few. Shigeru Yumebayashi is a Japanese composer for many Asian films, and Elan Ishikari is a British composer famous for his culture music, film scores, and artist collaborations. One notable video game in which Elan Ishikari also composed for the soundtrack is The Sims 4, as well as some of their expansion packs. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, I really love the music and soundtracks, and I can't thank enough for Elan Ishikari and Shigeru Umebayashi for it. Now, despite me praising Ghost of Tsushima so much, are there any bugs that you guys need to be aware of? Absolutely. There are times in which when I try to go for a side quest, I couldn't. There was no way to select it. However, when I reload a past save, then I was able to select it. Again, this is a bug that sometimes will happen. It doesn't happen too often. I think it only happened once out of the 75-hour run I had with Ghost of Tsushima. So it's not a big deal, but it is definitely something in which to watch out, and definitely very important that you all do manual saves, as if this kind of thing happens, you don't want to be somebody who has to start over Ghost of Tsushima. That will be a shame. Now, if you are somebody who loves achievement hunting, I have good news for you. In Ghost of Tsushima, achievement hunting is actually really fun. Unlock every part of the Ghost of Tsushima map, clear out all the Mongolian camps, get all the collectibles, focus on getting those different records, the nits and bit pieces, do all the side quests, mystics quests, engage in those extracurricular activities such as engaging in the hot springs, doing the bamboo strikes, to name a few, upgrade your weapons, and also master in different techniques of fighting in the game, all these different stuffs, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to 100% the game at ease. And there is no difficulty setting related achievements either, so don't worry if you are somebody who is not that great at gaming, but you still want 100%. Ghost of Tsushima will be a game that is great and fun to 100%, but I will warn you this. Doing 100% in the game, even though it is pretty easy, in which I feel like any kind of skill level gamer, no matter if you are a beginner, intermediate, or really hardcore gamer, I believe any one of you, if you put your heart and mind to it, you will be able to do 100%, even though it is fun and all that. But I will tell you this, prepare to spend around 75 hours, 60 hours to 100% the main game, and 15 hours to 100% Iki Island. So yeah, expect to spend much more time if you were to 100% the game and get all the achievements, because if it was just going straight through the main story, it would only take you 30 hours. 25 hours in the main game and 5 hours for Iki Island. Alright, before I share my thoughts and wrap this retrospective up, I want to discuss what I expect to see in Ghost of Yotei, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. I will go over what we know so far about Ghost of Yotei and then share my thoughts on what I expect to see in Ghost of Yotei, from gameplay elements to story settings. Now, I know that all Sucker Punch Studios says is that Ghost of Yotei will be released on the PS5 sometime in 2025. There is no confirmation as far as a PC release date, but I'm inclined to believe that it will come to PC. That's what I feel, because for Sony exclusives, there are a whole bunch of those games where they come to PC at a later date. So it is definitely something to be aware of, and I wouldn't bring my hopes down just because of this. So we already know that Ghost of Yotei takes place in 1603, which is 300 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima. With that, it is obvious that Ghost of Yotei is not going to include Jin Sakai as the protagonist, but a new protagonist, which is going to be Atsu, a female warrior who seeks revenge. Like the first game being Ghost of Tsushima taking place on Tsushima Island, the title of the sequel gives out the location of it. Ghost of Yotei is going to take place on the lands surrounding, you know it, Mount Zotei, which is called Izo during Ghost of Yotei's time period in 1603, which corresponds to present-day Hokkaido. So as far as weapons, we know that one of Atsu's weapons is a dual-wield katana. The dual-wield katana totally makes sense in Ghost of Yotei, because 300 years after the events of the Mongol invasion, the historical Mongol invasions in 1274, before the dual wield technique was introduced. We also know that Kusarigama will also be present. The Kusarigama was the name of the weapon which has a chain attached to a blade, in which folks at that time used by swinging the chain first before releasing the blade and going in for the kill. What I feel Sucker Punch Studios will do is to make the Kusarigama to be a light damage weapon that can do fast hits. Kind of gives me a bit of the vibe in God of War 2018, in which Kratos holds the blades of chaos on his wrist, those chains attached to his blades they use to slash enemies in a big area of effect. Now, besides the dual wield and katana, firearms will also be present, as Jason Connell, the creative director, said in an interview with the New York Times that Ghost of Yotei will be a game where there will be melee and firearm weapons. In this case, we will most likely get to see the Tanegashima featured in Ghost of Yotei, as that was a common firearm used around that time by samurais as well as soldiers. On top of these weapons revealed in the trailer, we might also get to see the Yotei, a blunt, non-bladed melee weapon used by the palace guards of the shogun during the Edo period due to the law strictly prohibiting swords in the shogun's place. The Yotei was also carried by high and low rank officials in Japan at the time. They worked like a badge basically to show that you are on duty. So it won't be a surprise that either we will see the Yotei kind of used by Atsu, or we get to see that being used on those different enemies, those guards, and all those different high officials that are gonna be in the game. Now, as far as returning weapons that were in Ghost of Tsushima, the weapons that I hope to see in Ghost of Yotei, I really hope that the bow and arrows will be featured, and there is a possibility that this will happen, as the bows and arrows in 1603, they are still widely used during the Edo times in Japan. Now, aside from the historical background, I also will love to see Ghost of Yotei implement the smoke powder as well as the black powder bombs. I believe those are must-haves in Ghost of Yotei, as they are so useful in taking out enemies, escaping battle, and I just find such great fulfillment fighting those different enemies in Ghost of Tsushima and throwing those black powder bombs to kill those different enemies as they get blasted within the bomb's radius, as well as using smoke bombs to hide my actions. I love every second of it. So I really hope that Sucker Punch Studios will include these bombs in the gameplay element in Ghost of Yotei as one of those weapons. I just feel like it's going to be really cool to see that. As far as other gameplay aspects goes, I really will love to see Ghost of Yotei have challenges. In Iki Island, the expansion pack of Ghost of Tsushima, we saw archery challenges taking place, so why not move it up a notch and give different styles of challenges resembling the different aspects of gameplay? If stealth is a technique in Ghost of Yotei, make stealth challenges. Since combat is definitely a thing, make a freaking combat challenge. I would love to see a variety of various types of challenges that resemble the gameplay and where it will be available in Ghost of Yotei. Now, another thing I want to see in Ghost of Yotei is a decrease in Inari Shrines compared to Ghost of Tsushima. In 1603, Inari Shrines were still a big deal, so won't be surprised if Inari Shrines will be a thing in Ghost of Yotei. In Ghost of Tsushima, we have like 49 Inari Shrines where you go have Jin just follow the fox to the fox den to pay the respects for the Inari Shrines, but there are 49 of them, so that is like more than double of any other types of landmarks. It is really a grind in Ghost of Tsushima, so I hope that Ghost of Yotei, they will give more of a balance among the different types of things you do in Ghost of Yotei to make Atsu stronger and be more equipped on her journey. I will also love to see some landmarks in Ghost of Yotei where there is going to be some reflection points where we get to learn more about Atsu and her past and what she currently struggles as she goes about on this journey for revenge. Kind of like how in Ghost of Tsushima, the main game, there's those hot springs in which Jin can go in and reflect on his past and what's going on in his struggles and so forth. So I feel like if they did that to Jin, they should do that to Atsu as well. Now, as far as the story aspect goes, all we know is about Atsu as a warrior seeking for vengeance. We don't know anything else about the story so far. But with that being said, we might see one of Atsu's struggles to be breaking the code of honor. I mean, because though 1603 was a time of peace in Japan, it was also a time of very strict orders. People were divided divided into 4 different classes: warrior class, farmer class, artisan class, and merchant class. Whatever class you were in, you were basically forbidden to engage with those of a different class. So we might see Atsu struggling to break the code to either recruit members from a different class or tag on her journey for vengeance to help those in a lower class. Basically, there's all these unknown possibilities that I can kind of see in the game in which they will portray. And I just feel that we will see a powerful story unfold which will speak to us in many different ways. Now, as far as conflicts and battles, I really don't know what to expect other than potentially Atsu facing the Tokugawa shogunate, as 1603 was a time of peace, political stability, and economic growth. Unlike a massive invasion in Ghost of Tsushima, the setting back in 1274, since there is no major war at a time in 1603, they actually just finished war, and where the Tokugawa shogunate just basically started ruling in Japan, since that is something new and they're just establishing peace. I really don't see any major war going. I mean, if there's any war in Ghost of Yotei, I feel it'll be more so a personal war. I feel it'll be a war in which Atsu herself needs to fight in order to seek vengeance. It's more personal. But yeah, these are my thoughts about what we might see in Ghost of Yotei. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you want to see in Ghost of Yotei, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima? Now on to the final thoughts of Ghost of Tsushima. So for the amazing gameplay, the amazing soundtracks, the amazing characters, but the unfortunate thing about the requirement of PSN and Windows operations, I will give Ghost of Tsushima a 8.5 out of 10. Because I still feel that it is a great game, but I don't appreciate it having those restrictions, and obviously with those restrictions, the Steam Deck gamers will not be able to experience multiplayer. But yeah, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, I will give a rating of 8.5 out of 10. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below, is Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut a game that definitely interests you? Will you be playing it on the Steam Deck? Will you be playing it on a high-end PC? What do you like about Ghost of Tsushima? Would love to hear in the comments section below. And as always, my name is Joe Wang, and if you love game reviews, game discussions, gaming lists, and many more, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so you will not miss another video. And as always, game on!